everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Buddy. We are so incredibly happy to have you hanging out with us today.
Yes, welcome back, everyone. This is your favorite cozy corner of the internet to practice your English listening skills, pick up some natural vocabulary, and hopefully have a few good laughs along the way. I am Alex.
And I am Justine. If you are an English learner, especially around the B1 or B2 intermediate level, you have absolutely found the perfect podcast. We do not speak like strict grammar teachers, and we definitely do not sound like a boring textbook. We just speak naturally, like two friends having a coffee and talking about life.
Exactly. Our goal is to help you understand real, everyday conversational English. You don't need to stress about translating every single word in your head. Just listen to the rhythm of the conversation, absorb the context, and let the language wash over you. And today's topic is incredibly important because it involves a situation where absolutely everybody feels anxious.
Oh, absolutely. Today, we are talking about the delicate art of apologizing in English. Saying you are sorry sounds like it should be the easiest thing in the world, but when you are doing it in a second language, it is actually a massive cultural and linguistic minefield. Making a social mistake in a foreign language is the kind of thing that keeps you awake at night.
It really is. You replay the conversation in your head for years. But real quick, before we dive into all of our embarrassing apology stories, we want to politely remind you that we have created a completely free PDF study guide for this exact episode.
Yes, you definitely want to grab this one. The study guide contains all the essential apology vocabulary, the specific idioms we are going to use today, and a really fun quick quiz to help you test your memory. You can find the link for the PDF right down in the description, so please feel free to download it whenever you are ready.
Perfect. So, Justine, let's talk about apologizing. In many cultures around the world, an apology is a very serious thing. It is a heavy admission of guilt. You only say sorry if you have done something genuinely terrible. But in the English-speaking world, it is a little bit different, isn't it?
A little bit different? Alex, it is a completely different universe, especially in the United Kingdom. You lived in London for a while, and I know you experienced this firsthand. The British sorry is practically a national sport. People in the UK say sorry for absolutely everything.
It really is. The British are famous globally for over-apologizing. It is less about admitting guilt and more about just keeping the social peace. It is like a social lubricant that stops people from feeling uncomfortable.
Give me an example of the classic British sorry, because I think a lot of our listeners from other parts of the world might find it very confusing.
Okay, well, the most classic example is when someone else makes a mistake, but you apologize for it. For example, if I am standing completely still in the supermarket and a stranger accidentally crashes their shopping cart into my leg, my immediate reaction is to say, "Oh, sorry."
Yes, you apologize to the person who just hit you. It makes absolutely no logical sense. Why do we do that?
It makes zero sense. But in that context, the word sorry doesn't mean I apologize for causing this accident. It actually translates to something more like, this is an awkward physical interaction. Let us both acknowledge it politely and move on with our lives.
It happens all the time in hallways, too. Do you know the sorry dance?
Oh, the sorry dance. Yes, for our listeners, the sorry dance is when you are walking down a hallway and someone is walking toward you. You step to the left to let them pass, but they also step to the left. Then you step to the right, and they step to the right. You are blocking each other.
Exactly. And during this entire awkward dance, both people are just repeatedly saying, "Oh, sorry, sorry, so sorry." Nobody did anything wrong. but there are 10 apologies happening in 5 seconds.
And then there is the other very confusing use of the word sorry in the UK, when they use it as a question. If a British person looks at you and says, sorry, with an upward inflection, they are not apologizing.
Right. They are actually saying, I did not hear what you just said. Can you please repeat yourself? But if you are a B1 learner and you don't know that cultural nuance, you might think they are apologizing for something, and the conversation gets very confusing.
Exactly. So understanding the cultural weight of an apology is step one. But step two is using the correct vocabulary. Because if you use vocabulary that is too formal for a minor situation, you end up sounding very strange. And people might actually think you are making a joke.
Oh, here we go. I know you have a story about this from your first year living in London, when you were trying really hard to sound like an advanced English speaker.
I really do. And this is probably one of the most embarrassing moments from my early 20s. I was trying so hard to sound like a native speaker, and I was memorizing all these advanced, highly formal phrases from a business textbook.
Using formal textbook English in a casual social situation is always a recipe for disaster. Set the scene for us. What exactly happened?
So, I was invited to a housewarming party by a new colleague from my office named David. For our listeners, a housewarming party is a casual party you host when you move into a new apartment. I really wanted to make a good impression on my coworkers, so I dressed up nicely, I bought a fairly expensive bottle of Italian wine, and I headed to the party.
Okay, that sounds like a perfect plan so far. Very polite, very professional.
Right, but then the London Underground happened. The train was delayed for about 15 minutes because of a signal failure. I was stuck on the train, sweating in my nice clothes, completely panicking. In my home culture, being late is a sign of deep disrespect. It means you do not value the other person's time.
Oh, the cultural anxiety of being late. But Alex, for a casual housewarming party in the UK, being 15 minutes late is actually considered perfectly on time. In fact, you don't want to be the first person there anyway. That is considered awkward.
I know that now, but at the time, my brain was in full panic mode. While I was sitting on the delayed train, I was rehearsing my apology in my head. I wanted it to sound perfect. I finally arrived at the apartment, knocked on the door, and David opened it. He was wearing a casual t-shirt, holding a beer, and smiling.
And what did you say to him? Please tell me exactly what came out of your mouth.
I took a deep breath. I looked him straight in the eyes with a very tragic, serious expression on my face, and I said loudly, David, I owe you a profound apology. My behavior was completely out of line. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive my tardiness.
No! Alex! You said, I owe you a profound apology for being 15 minutes late to a party? You sounded like a character from a Shakespeare play. Forgive my tardiness?
I know. I sounded like an aristocrat from the 1800s who just insulted his family's honor. The music was playing in the background, people were chatting, and David just stared at me. He looked at the bottle of wine, looked at my sweating face, and just started laughing out loud.
That is the most dramatic thing I have ever heard. How did he react after he stopped laughing?
He just patted me on the shoulder and said, Mate, it's a house party. Half the people aren't even here yet. Grab a beer and calm down. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. I realized instantly that I had used language that was way too extreme for the situation.
That is such a fantastic example for our B1 and B2 learners. The phrase, I owe you an apology, is a wonderful advanced phrase. But it carries a lot of heavy emotional weight. You use that phrase when you have done something genuinely damaging.
Exactly. If I had crashed my car into David's house, then yes, I owe you an apology would be perfect. Or if I had completely forgotten his wedding day. But for being 10 minutes late to a party, a simple, hey, sorry I'm late, the train was delayed, is all you need.
Yes, keeping it casual is key. And you also use the phrase out of line. To be out of line means that your behavior was highly inappropriate, disrespectful, or broke social rules. Being late to a party is definitely not out of line.
It really isn't. It was a harsh lesson in understanding context. But Justine, you have also had a massive apology disaster, haven't you? And yours wasn't about being too formal. Yours was about an accidental insult because of cultural directness.
Yes, my story is physically painful to remember. This happened a few years ago when I was at a dinner with a group of American friends. Now, Americans are generally very friendly, but they have very specific, unwritten rules about politeness and saving face in public.
Right. American English has its own minefield of polite social interactions. They like to sugarcoat things. To sugarcoat means to make something sound nicer than it really is. What exactly did you do?
So, we were all sitting around the table at a nice restaurant. One of the girls in the group, let's call her Sarah, had just gotten a dramatic new haircut. She had chopped all her hair off and dyed it a very bright, unusual color. It was a very bold fashion choice.
Okay, bold fashion choices always require careful commentary. You have to navigate those waters carefully.
Exactly. Now, in my native language, if someone does something very unique or avant-garde with their style, we might use a word that translates directly to interesting. In my culture, calling a style interesting is a compliment. It means it is fascinating, cool, and not boring.
Oh no. Oh, Justine, please tell me you didn't.
I did. Sarah turned to me, smiled, and said, Justine, what do you think of the new hair? And I smiled back warmly, and I said very loudly, oh, wow, it is very interesting.
Ugh. The absolute worst word you could possibly choose in American English. The silence at the table must have been deafening.
It was completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Sarah's smile completely vanished. She looked genuinely hurt, and she quietly said, oh, you don't like it. I was so confused. I realized I had accidentally insulted her, but I didn't understand why.
For our listeners who might be confused, in English, especially in North America, calling someone's new haircut or new outfit or new art project interesting is secretly code. It is a polite, passive-aggressive way of saying, I think it looks terrible, but I don't want to be mean.
Exactly. I learned that the hard way. It implies that you cannot find a single positive word like beautiful or cool, so you just settle for interesting. I had basically just told this poor girl that she looked ridiculous to her face.
So how did you fix it? You had clearly crossed a line, even if it was an accident.
This is where the magic phrase, I didn't mean to, saved my entire life. I immediately threw my hands up and I said, oh my gosh, Sarah, wait, I am so sorry. I completely used the wrong English word. I didn't mean to sound rude at all.
That is the perfect recovery. I didn't mean to is such a powerful tool for language learners. When you say, I didn't mean to, you are explaining your intention. You are telling the person that the mistake was an accident.
It really is. I quickly explained that in my language, interesting means cool and avant-garde. I told her the haircut actually looked amazing. She immediately relaxed, started laughing, and said the second most important phrase of the night. She said, "Oh, thank goodness. Don't worry about it at all. No hard feelings."
No hard feelings. What a fantastic natural resolution. For our listeners, when someone says no hard feelings, it means they are accepting your apology completely. It means there is no anger, no bitterness, and no negative emotion left between the two of you.
It is such a graceful way to move past an awkward moment. But you know, Alex, before we recap the vocabulary, we should quickly mention the corporate apology. There is a big movement right now teaching people to stop over-apologizing in work emails.
Oh, yes. This is highly relevant for our B2 learners who use English in their careers. Often, when we have a minor delay, our first instinct is to write, "I am so sorry for the delay" in an email. It makes you sound weak or overly guilty.
Exactly. Business coaches suggest that instead of apologizing over something small, you should reframe it as gratitude. You turn a negative sorry into a positive thank you. So instead of writing, "I am sorry for the delay," you write, "Thank you for your patience."
It is a massive confidence booster. You are no longer begging for forgiveness, you are acknowledging their time. It makes your professional English sound incredibly polished. Well, we have covered so many awkward situations today. Let's slow down and do our buddy vocabulary recap.
I completely agree. Let's look back at the key phrases our listeners need to master the art of the English apology. Let's start with the heavy, dramatic phrase that you misused at the party, Alex.
Right, the phrase is, "I owe you an apology." You use this when you realize you have done something genuinely wrong and you want to take full responsibility. For example, "I completely forgot your birthday yesterday. I owe you an apology."
Perfect. Just don't use it if you are 5 minutes late for coffee. Next up is the phrase describing bad behavior, out of line. If someone's words or actions are out of line, it means they are unacceptable, disrespectful, or inappropriate for the situation. For example, the way the manager yelled at the staff yesterday was completely out of line.
Excellent example. Now, what about the magic phrase you used to save yourself at the restaurant? The intention explainer.
Ah, yes. I didn't mean to. This is a lifesaver for language learners. It means your action was an accident and you had no bad intentions. For example, "I am so sorry I broke your favorite coffee mug. I didn't mean to drop it. My hands were wet."
It softens the mistake immediately. And finally, what is the best phrase to use when you are the person accepting the apology?
That would be, "No hard feelings." You say this to assure the other person that you are not angry anymore and the relationship is fine. For example, "Don't worry about spilling water on my jacket. It will dry. No hard feelings."
Those are such incredibly useful phrases. Mastering how to apologize and knowing when not to apologize will make you feel so much more comfortable in English-speaking environments. It is all about reading the room and knowing the culture.
It really is. Well, we hope this episode helped you feel a little more confident about making mistakes. Because making mistakes is the only way you actually learn. And please don't forget to download that free PDF study guide. The link is right down in the description box. And it has all these phrases written clearly with extra examples.
Yes, go grab that PDF. And if you enjoyed spending time with us today, please consider subscribing to our channel for your daily dose of English. Making English a fun, daily habit is the fastest way to reach fluency. Also, we absolutely love reading your comments. Head down below and tell us, what is the most awkward apology you have ever had to make in English?
I honestly cannot wait to read those stories. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on Daily English Buddy today. Keep practicing, be kind to yourselves, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.
Bye, everyone. No hard feelings, right? Take care.